Hi, welcome back to Air Engine Research. It's been a while since I posted any videos, but today I'm going to do that. First though, I want to welcome any new subscribers that we've gotten recently, and I hope if you're interested in what I'm trying to do, that you will subscribe also. If you push the subscribe button, that'll get you in, and also you'll be notified then of any new videos or updates that I'm going to be making. My last video was using a slider valve system on my 3-cylinder air engine, but it's too hard to keep that type of a valve sealed, and so I decided to design a different ball valve system. I'm using a double ball bearing valve with O-ring seats and seals around the shafts, and that system is completely sealed and will hold pressure under a load. But the oscillating motion of the cylinders as the engine runs is difficult to try to adjust the valves. The motion of the number 1 cylinder is different than it is for the number 2 and the 3-cylinder, causing problems that you'll see later on in my last videos. The videos are going to be this video is going to be a combination of pictures and drawings and other videos that I've made during the time while I've been working on the double ball valve system. So once again, thanks for subscribing, and I'll go ahead and start with the rest of the video for today. Today I'm working on some of the items that has to be made. This will be eventually another one of the rotary things for a different engine when I finally get it worked out. And this is the back plate for the motor, and this was the first one that I had kind of designed out, but that wasn't working very well, so I had to change it and make it to meet the requirements for the new setup that I finally decided on. And just some of my mess that I have in the garage when I work in here. You can see parts and pieces laying around, but eventually I do get things put together and figured out. So I'll just continue working on it today. Well, I have my base now made for the 3-cylinder, and that's what it looks like. I have to put the bearings and stuff in, so they go one in the back, one in the front, and then the cylinder fits on there like so. We've got a little locking plate that goes on. Line that up kinda. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, that's the slider valve part. That fits in here. Then center bearing for the rotator. And in the back. Losing my parts. That's the spacer. And then I gotta put this on. If I don't lose everything. And then I got a balancer that goes on. Let's see where I've got my thing here. I want to put that opposite up at the top. So that's that ain't right. So that looks like that works pretty good. Okay. And my next project is putting the spider valve and stuff in it. Yeah. Wait a minute here.
Come on, Foster. Didn't expect that to be happening, but you just have to loosen it up. It's in line. It's a little bit close quarters right there, so you just have to fight with it a little bit to get that thing started, I guess. Well, come on, Butterfingers. There, got it. Oh, nope, I see something there. It's going to be a problem if I don't do it right. I got to have a little spacer because of this bolt here. That'll be gone though later when I have the shaft welded to the back of this. I don't have that right now. So for now I'm going to put this spacer in here. And then put this on. There might be a better way of doing this, but for right now, that's how I did it. Looks like I'm short a nut. Well, darn. Thought I had all the parts that I needed, but evidently I don't. So I'm going to have to pause it and then we'll get a nut for that. So come back in a minute and start it again. Well, I was lucky. I found one in the other room, so I can go ahead and finish putting this together, I think. Or at least it looks like it will fit. But it's one of those lock nuts, so that's no good. I can't put it on, it's too tight. So I'll have to go out in the garage. Well, I'm back. Got the extra little bolt and a nut. Thought, well, why not? I'll maybe replace that big long one with this one. Let's see how that goes. Doesn't have to be that long. And I do know that this won't be the first time where I've had to redo something, so it's just part of the game. Over the years, I've done it and redone it and changed it and come back and managed to get it to work eventually. So let's see, I'll have to take this apart later and adjust the let's see, that's up in the air quite a bit, so that won't work. I have to get that lined up. Otherwise it's going to be putting pressure on the slider valve, I think. It may not hurt though. We'll see. If I have to take it off, then I'll just have to take it off and bend that a little bit to make it line up. But for now, we'll have to see if it goes or not. Oh, too far. That has to be lined up just right too. And the right distance, naturally. These holes are supposed to line up with the hole in the top of here, which, let's see, when it's in this position, let's see, get that around there further, that position there. That should be in the center, roughly. To block off the hole. I think about right there. Nope, not far enough. Maybe right there. We'll try that. Oops. That looks pretty good for distance. Oh, gotta get it in there though now. Oh, jeez. Isn't that something? Well, I can back this off. Leave the other nut where it's at, so then I can still get it in there. And hopefully it'll be lined up. There. There's always more than one way to do this stuff. As long as that's not too tight. I think I got it set a little bit too tight in there. Have to back it off a hair. I may find out after a while that I'm going to have to redo these, or not this maybe, but actually the slider valve with the 2 holes in it, so that it's longer and it won't hit the end of the nut whenever it rotates. It's still hitting it, so I'm going to have to loosen it up a little more. Well, I finally got my saw blades in, and only one of them would fit, so I've got to take 2 of them back to the store in St. Louis. I'll never order another from that company, that's for sure. I ordered them on the 12th, and the 18th the bandsaw blades were shipped, and then on the 26th I finally got them. And then when I tried to put them on, none of them would fit at first. Finally I adjusted the bandsaw wheels, and I got one of them to work, so at least I could go ahead and cut the things that I was wanting to work on. And I've got 3 of them hooked up now on my model, and so far it looks like it's working pretty good. It's not hooked up for air or anything yet. There's still wooden parts on here that's going to end up being made out of metal eventually, so I'm just trying to make sure that everything works and it does what I want it to do. And so far it looks like it's doing pretty good. They all seem to do what I want, and I found a few things that I'm going to have to make a little different than what I did because of how tight everything is on it, and I can't get in to do some of the nuts and stuff like I have to, so that'll all be changed. These connectors here will be changed, and I've still got to do a few things with threading, drilling and threading and stuff for the airline connectors to go fitting on. I've got one of them made, but the others will still have to be drilled out and tapped. So for right now, I'm going to go in and have a cup of coffee. I spent a few hours out here. It's cold, so I think it's time to go in. So I'll finish more on this video a little bit later on. Okay, this video shows you how the valve opens and closes to let air in or out. And in this position, it is top dead center. So this is what gets pushed around. As you notice on the valve here, the slot, that allows air to come out. And when you have it in this position, it's starting to let air in, and it will let air in all the way until the piston is in this position. and the cylinder is all the way out. And as it goes further, you'll notice that it starts to open. A little tiny hole there. It goes letting air out all the way until the piston gets pushed all the way back up in. Now it's back up to top dead center, or where it can fire again, and you'll notice the hole is completely closed. As it fires, it starts letting air in, so I can get it positioned better. And again, it allows air in until it gets all the way to the bottom, and then you notice it just closing the little hole. Stays that way. Now it's in the exhaust to let the air back out till it gets back to top dead center, and again the hole is completely closed before it gets to the point where it wants to fire again. So that's basically how the valve works. Not too complicated. Much simpler than what I had before. I'm surprised that I hadn't thought about this sooner, but I just came on the whole idea one night while I was trying to go to sleep, thinking about what could I do to make it better, more efficient, less complicated, and something that could be easily worked on. And this is what I come up with. Well, I've been working on it for another day. This morning I had to go to town, but I'm back now, and I've got most of the things hooked up and everything that are necessary for running, except I have to drill that hole and that hole out yet and make it so that I can put a 1/8 inch air connector to it. I decided to use the original thin connectors for my push rods instead of the heavier ones that I had made. They were just too bulky, and they'd end up making the motor about another inch wider than what it is now. That one, well, I could have, but I didn't have enough material maybe to do it, and that still would have been more than what I wanted. So I just decided to stay with the thin connectors. They'll do the job, and they don't take up hardly any space or room where I've got them connected, which I like. So I'm going to go ahead and drill those holes out and then hook up the air lines and see kind of what happens when I put air to it for the first time. Well, it does run, as you can see. Temporarily hooked it up with hoses and stuff just to make it run, but definitely out of balance bad, and I'm going to have to do something about that. Very bad. But anyway, for now I have to figure out how to balance it and what I have to do to balance it. So for now, at least you saw it run. So I'm real comfortable. Starts and stops in any position though. So, I think for my first startup, I think it's running pretty good. Although I'm sure some sort of balance, but I'm not sure how in the world to do it because of it being off center and the parts and stuff are, you know, the shaft is in the center, but the valve drive is off to one side, and it does have a longer point on this V, which makes it heavier, and actually it always wants to come back and stop in that position almost every time, I think. Yeah, so it always ends up in that position. So, I don't know, I just got a makeshift balance thing on the back of it. I don't know if you can see that or not too well, but it's a weight, and it seems to be helping when I have that on there, but I'm not sure. So for now, I'm going to quit and go in and have a cup of coffee like I did the other day. I'm not happy at all with the way the slider valve is working. It runs okay when it's, you know, freewheeling, but as soon as you put it under a load, then it leaks quite a bit, and it can't build up enough pressure to take advantage of what the air pressure is. So I've decided I'm going to work on a different valve system and see if I can get that one to work. So from now on, I'm going to be working with a different type of valve. So I'll go ahead and show you some of the things that I come up with as I do. So we'll see how it goes for later. I have all 3 cylinders hooked up now, except I don't have the exhaust valve part working on cylinder number 2. So it does run like it misses out. So I'll show you how that goes in a minute here. It will run, but it's jerky. Once I get the exhaust valve put together for it, that'll take care of that item. So I'm going to continue working on the thing today and make a new shaft for the exhaust valve and put in where it belongs, make another one of the flipper valves, and we'll go from there. So till I get around to making another video, this will just be a portion of it. Hello, welcome back to Air Engine Research. Today I've got my 3-cylinder engine, and I've been working on the valving. As you've seen my last video, hopefully, it had a sliding valve system on it, which I have never been able to completely get to seal. And if you're thinking about an air engine, compressed air is very precious and you don't want to waste any. Hopefully this is an efficient enough one that someday I'll be able to use it. It can be made in a little larger version and actually put into a small vehicle. I'm hoping for my Ram 50 pickup truck one day to use it in there. But it could be used this size on a like a 4-wheeler or a motorbike or something of that nature. The valve system that I have now is completely sealed. It'll hold pressure under a load, and that's very important because when you start to get under a load, the pressure builds and you don't want to be wasting any air, or if it builds to a certain point, then it just leaks out more than it will push, and that doesn't work. The design on this is a floating crankshaft. It's got a 3-inch radius, or a 3-inch diameter rather. And the piston moves up and down 1 inch, and the crankshaft rotates 1 complete revolution. If that were in a regular car engine with a crankshaft, the piston would move up and down. On a 3-inch crank, it would move back and forth 6 inches. So that was 5 times more than what I use in this one. But with this system, I am not satisfied with the valving that has to be done on the thing, because the way the engine rotates, this cylinder moves back and forth, and this one moves this way, this one moves that way. This one moves, say, 1/4 of an inch this way, 1/4 inch that way. This one moves 1/2 inch back and forth. So a single crank or camshaft in the center to drive the valve push rods won't work. So I had to come up with a different system, but I'm not satisfied with that. My original goal was to make an efficient, easy to build, easy to maintain, and as few parts as possible. And this does not meet that goal. So I have another idea for a valve that will use a center, not a center, but it'd be an off-center pin that would be able to be used as driving the crankshaft. So as that rotates, then it would go around, push a single shaft that would allow air to come in, and then on the return it would let air out to come out. I think I have the design that'll work. It will be using a steel ball and an O-ring seat, and probably an additional O-ring for sealing the shaft on the exhaust side. But that's something I have to still actually make one and see if it will work. It will seal and it will hold pressure under a load. So I just wanted to do a short video to let you see kind of where I'm at and what's going on, and that it does work, but I'm not satisfied with it. So that's just a small demonstration. It doesn't run as well as I'd like because of it's difficult to get the timing exactly right. And if there's any lag in one piston pushing, it'll cause it to shake and vibrate for one thing, but also it won't run correctly. So if you're interested in what I'm doing, please subscribe. If you click on the subscription button, you'll be notified whenever I get any new information to put out, and I will be doing that again shortly, hopefully. So until then, thanks for checking in, and see you later.